Hello and welcome along to the Weather Studio Live. It's 1 o'clock, it's Tuesday. We are broadcasting live from the Met Office. I'm Alex Deakin.
And I'm Aidan McGibbon. Coming up this week, it's warming up. But how warm will it get when temperatures peak this weekend? Spring, it appears, is springing. Also, it is half term for some of us. Well, not for us too, unfortunately, but some of you might have children who are off. So we'll be showing you a weather experiment you can perform at home. And we'll be answering some of the questions we've been sent in by children. And believe me, they are trickier than the questions we normally get sent in by adults.
Yes, a packed show. We realise it's not half-term everywhere. I know much of Scotland was on half-term last week and much of Wales is on half-term next week, but large swathes of the UK are on half-term this week. And even if you're not a child, you can still send us in your questions. Please do. We are live on YouTube, we are live on Facebook, we are live on Twitter through Periscope, so you can just ask us questions as we go along. We will try and answer some other questions during the course of the show as well, but it is warming up. That's why I've rolled my sleeves up. But how warm is it going to get? That is the big question, Aidan.
Well, do you remember this time last year?
Something was happening. Ooh, yeah, was it? We were a bit busy for some reason. I can't quite put my finger on why, though.
It was cooling down.
Oh, yes.
It was. It doesn't get as busy when it's warming up, actually.
No, it doesn't,
yeah.
actually.
No, I think people are outside enjoying it, but it was cooling down considerably. A year ago tomorrow, we put out a graphic that showed this. So the temperatures in Siberia were minus 37. They're not that cold
falling.
right now. And falling. And that air was coming our way. So we were giving people a heads up this time last year of what was to come. Minus 13 there in Moscow. Minus 9 into Eastern Europe. And you can see those blues coming our way. And who can forget the beast from the east that we ended up with. Of course, 1 degree in London doesn't sound that dramatic, but we ended up having 2 red warnings for snow across the country at the end of February and the beginning of March. Coldest March day on record in the UK. So that's the lowest maximum temperature ever recorded in March was last year.
So it was a year ago we were flagging this up, happening at the weekend, and then it was cold, and then it was the following week, wasn't it, when we started to get the snow. But the beast from the east, yes, the first real signs of the beast from the east exactly a year ago.
Couldn't be more different this week. Our air is not coming from here. It's still quite cold. They're not as cold as it was last year. It's now coming up from the southwest. Now, this is Cape Verde, you can see there. Temperatures in the mid-20s, and they are climbing through the next few days to the southwest of the UK, and we're drawing up all this warmth from the subtropics.
Pretty warm in the Canaries, if you know people on holiday there this week. Temperatures getting into the mid-20s by Friday, but it is heading our way as well. And yeah, look at that. Temperatures into the high teens possibly by Friday and Saturday. It really is going to be warming up. A bit like it did last week, really. It's a similar kind of setup, isn't it? At the end of last week, most places had a gorgeous day on Friday with lots of sunshine around. And although there's still a bit of question marks about where we see, how much sunshine we see as we go towards this weekend, it does look as if those temperatures, again, are going to be in the high teens come Friday and Saturday across some parts of the UK. So it's amazing, the comparison.
Yeah. Looking at them side by side there, just incredible, showing where our air comes from is critical.
How much of a difference it makes, and it's not even like completely opposite. It's just a 90-degree shift almost. Instead of an easterly, we've got a southerly. Instead of an easterly, sorry, we've got
quite cold air coming down here as warm air comes up here. So you can see the blues coming through here. So Eastern Europe into the East Med, getting a cold spell by the end of this week into the weekend, but nowhere near as cold as the air that swept across Northern Europe last year. That really was exceptional, and the heat, the warmth, the relatively mild air that we're getting this weekend is also well above average. So
and Rhyl, of course, got 17.5 last week. Colwyn Bay got 18.2. That was the top temperature so far this year. What are we going to get this weekend? That's the big question.
Yeah, we could beat it, and it's all thanks to the jet stream, which is riding well to the north of the UK. However, there is some unsettled weather to come over the next 24 hours. Some rainfall. Let's put on the rainfall there. Let's take off the jet stream. So you can see weather fronts moving across predominantly Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, North Wales as well. Some very wet weather through Tuesday night and into Wednesday. You can see it clears away then. Now, the higher ground across western Scotland, northwest England as well, we'll get several inches of rainfall, but it will mainly be those northwestern
Zoom in
areas.
a bit and show just because you can't always quite clearly see. So there's high pressure across Europe. There's the UK, and if we go through the next couple of days, there will be rain. Quite a wet night actually across Scotland, Northern Ireland tonight. Further heavy rain to come, and the breeze picking up as well. But it will be a pretty mild night. We'll start to see temperatures. Well, we won't see temperatures anywhere near freezing overnight because of these warm fronts. The ice are squeezing together, so the wind's picking up as well. But then eventually, what we see later this week, the high starts to dominate, doesn't it? And the winds swing round. So instead of coming from the southwest, they start more coming up. Still from the southwest, but just more of a southerly track, bringing that warm air from Cape Verde and from the Canaries.
We see a lot of cloud on the map there through Wednesday and Thursday, so we're not going to see a lot of sunshine the next few days, I don't think. That is until Friday, and then that's when we start to see the winds push up from the south and they clear the cloud, and eventually that cloud disappears to the north of the UK by the time we get to the weekend. So Friday, temperatures are going to climb quite considerably across southern areas, and that warmth then pushes northwards into the weekend. So Saturday is looking like the day to watch for exceptionally mild air coming our way. And you can see it spreads all the way up to Scandinavia, Iceland, the jet stream by this stage on Saturday, drawing up all this warmth. Some of these red colours appearing into France and Spain. You know, if that was in the summer, we'd be talking about very, very warm air as well.
Hot, wouldn't we? So I can put the fronts back on, because just want to point out that there is a weather front just not too far away, and it could be pushing into the west, so crossing into Northern Ireland, Western Scotland. So here, not necessarily going to be sunny. Not guaranteeing sunshine everywhere like we did last Friday. There will be a bit more cloud at times in the west. Some uncertainty about the position of that front. It's still a few days away, so make sure you keep up to date with the forecast. But pretty much everywhere will be experiencing the warmer air. But whether it's warm and cloudy or mild and cloudy, or whether you get those really high temperatures where we see some sunshine. And, of course, to the north of hills and mountains, that's where we're most likely to see the highest temperatures.
Because people often say, oh, it's just London, isn't it? But it's not this time. Widely 15, 16 degrees across the country. Around coastal areas, because the winds are coming up from the south.
The south coast will be only about 10 degrees, couldn't it?
It could be a bit misty as well. So, you know, if you're heading to the beach, South Devon, you know, southern parts of Brighton, yeah, it might be a bit misty and cold. But elsewhere, widespread sunshine on Saturday. Temperatures rising through the day. 14, 15, 16 degrees inland, away from the beaches. And in some places, downwind of mountains, that's where you're likely to see a firn effect. That's where the air dries out as it pushes over mountains, and then as it comes down on the other side of the mountains, it's warmer as a result because it's dried out on the...
to the north of mountains, because we've got southerly winds, so it's areas to the north of mountains. So North Wales, North East England probably doing all right, and the Moray Firth, they're going to be probably the top temperatures.
Yeah, and these numbers, 17, 18 degrees, quite significant. Now, 17, that comes close to the Scottish record. Let's take a look at those records. So bearing in mind, 18 in Wales, perhaps, 17 or even 18 in Scotland. These are the
February records. Current February records for each of the nations.
So for England, 19.7, and that's for the UK as a whole as well. Unlikely, couldn't rule it out, unlikely to beat that. Then you look at Wales, 18.6. We reckon about 18 degrees for North Wales, could get a bit more. Scotland, 17.9. Again, we reckon north of the hills in Scotland could get something like
that. Interesting, is over 100 years old, that record, and it's quite a low maximum. So, speaking to Stuart, our colleagues up in Edinburgh, up in Aberdeen, sorry, this morning. I was speaking to him this morning about that record, and he said it's quite a low. It's unusual. February, their all-time February high is lower than their all-time January and December high, which is quite unusual because by February the sun's getting a bit more power in it. So you'd expect the February all-time high to be higher. So that is reasonably low. So there's
a theory about that.
Okay, talk me through it.
In February, right?
Yeah.
I might be talking nonsense here, but in February you get less frequent westerly winds in the UK. You get more often easterly winds than westerly. You get more westerly winds, more stormy weather, more of those strong winds from the Atlantic in December and January. To get high temperatures in Scotland in the winter, it's not really aided by the sun as much as the wind. Downwind of somewhere like Aberdeen, downwind of some mountains on a southwesterly wind, you get that Föhn effect and you get the temperatures rising. That's my theory.
Look forward to the paper on that, Aidan. But so these are the numbers that we're looking at towards the end of the week. We will be keeping you updated here at the Met Office. We have all the numbers, all the facts, all the statistics. So we'll be keeping you updated to see if we break any of these records through Friday and more likely on Saturday. But yes, that's the most likely one to go. I would have thought that unlikely at this stage, but you never know. You never know. Depends how much sunshine we get. The sunshine, getting stronger and stronger each day. It does make all the difference, and it doesn't look like it could stay quite warm through next week, so it's not necessarily just at the weekend. So yes,
got any questions?
So yes, it is getting warmer, and it's going to be an interesting few days, but not necessarily sunny for the next couple of days. Don't be surprised if Wednesday's rather grey and Thursday quite cloudy as well, and still some mist and fog around. It is still February. The nights are still long enough for things to get chilly at night. Still some pockets of frost possible as well as some fog. Any good questions coming in, Aidan?
Shawnee sheep. My daughter loves Shaun the sheep.
Okay.
Big fan. I'm not sure if it's the same Shaun. On YouTube has asked, how warm will it get on the coast of northwest of England, please? Be a bit cold on the coast, but depending on the exact position on that coast and the exposure to the wind, but unlikely to get the really high temperatures that you'll see, say, in northeast England through the weekend. So somewhere in the teens, I imagine. But if you're right on the coast, maybe 11, 12 degrees or so. Ollie Kenny on YouTube, what qualifications do I need to be a meteorologist?
That's a good question. That's a good question, Ollie. Well, the main things is to keep up with your maths and your science. I think they're the key factors. A lot of people think you need geography to get into meteorology. That's not necessarily the case, actually. I'd say physics and maths are more important than science. It's a real science. So actually, the more science you can do, the better. Computing, obviously, nowadays a lot of the forecast is done by supercomputers. So keep up your computer science as well. They're the kind of the best subjects to do and to study, I would say. And then once you've gone to university perhaps or got your A-levels, then you can move on to more specific meteorology degrees. That would be the best way to do it. Rosalind Lightfoot on Facebook, are we going to get any more snow? We'll answer that in just a moment, or other questions similar to that. Bit of a girly on Periscope asks, will there be cloud cover this evening? Now, I suspect that is because she wants to know whether she can see the moon tonight, because it's full moon tonight. It's what they call a super moon, because the moon is a little bit closer to the Earth, so it will appear brighter, and it's going to be the brightest full moon of the year.
Is it?
Yes, but sadly, it will be mostly cloudy. A snow moon, that's what it's called, the full moon in February. But sadly, I suspect it will be cloudy for most. The further east and northeast you are in particular, the best chance you have of seeing some clear skies. It was beautiful, the moon, as it rose up last night, almost full. Tonight it will be beautiful as well, but probably the best chance of getting a good glimpse of that this evening, certainly across eastern parts of England and northeast Scotland. That's your best bet. Otherwise, it is going to be mostly cloudy, so not a lot of clear skies around this evening.
Here's one from Requex on Periscope. Will we be getting any more freezing temperatures in the south? Well, it's actually -2 degrees on my car thermometer when I came in this morning. So we had a frost, and you can get a frost in the south right up till May, or even later than that. So yeah, probably. Whether we get prolonged, widespread freezing air, we're looking at the forecast, the outlook later on. But yeah, we're talking about the mild air coming along. Still, at the moment, we have had a frosty start today.
Thanks for your questions. Keep them coming in. We have had other questions to answer as well. These are ones from children we've had through the course of the week. So we'll
answer them in a moment. First,
yes,
just in case you want to entertain any kids that are off school.
How to make a cloud in a bottle. You don't have to be a child to enjoy this. You can be an adult, want to make a cloud in a bottle. A bit of meteorology at home. This is a video that's on our sister channel, Learn About Weather. It's double deaking. You've got another one of me there showing you how to do it. You just need some water, a bottle, and some matches, and you can make a cloud in a bottle at home. Now, the size of the bottle, the bigger the bottle, the better. They need to be about 3/4 full. Fill it up with water. You do need some matches, so if you are, you do need adult supervision if you are doing this at home. But basically, it's quite straightforward. You just fill the water into the bottle, about 3/4 full, and then you just give it a bit of a squeeze. Now, that really intensifies, increases the pressure and increases the temperature, and then you let go, and then that reduces the pressure and reduces the temperature. Now, what you need to do is do it first of all, once you've shaken the bottle. That's important because it then creates the gap, the air at the top above the water. It saturates that and gets some water in it. But as you see here, we give it a squeeze and not a lot will happen initially, but that's what you need the matches for. And then when you put the match in, the match obviously goes out, but that adds the crucial element, which is condensation nuclei. So there, I'm squeezing it, not a lot happening, not a lot happening. There's no condensation nuclei in there. So we add a match, and a match is crucial because it adds these little tiny little smoke particles. You can't see the smoke. It's not just putting smoke into it, that's cheating. But you can't actually see the particles, but they are there, and that's crucial for allowing the condensation to form. So next time, once you've added the match, you squeeze it and let it go, and your own little cloud, your own little personal cloud will appear, as is demonstrated here. So you put the match in. All that does, as I say, is add some condensation nuclei. Now you can't see it. There's no. It's not like you just smoke in there, as I said. But now, when you squeeze it, there you go. There's a cloud. That is cloud. That is all cloud is. It's just moisture. It's just tiny water droplets. But to form those water droplets, the crucial thing is you need what's called condensation nuclei. You need those little smoke particles. I just explained it all, but if you want more detail, you can watch it on our sister channel, Learn About Weather, and you can make it at home. It's very straightforward. It's very interesting. There's lots of other stuff on our Learn About Weather channel as well.
There is. You mentioned raindrops.
Yes.
There's that size comparison video showing the tiny little cloud droplets that you get in a cloud compared to how big the raindrops are that fall out the sky, and then the world's biggest hailstone ever recorded. So you can find that on the same.
Yeah. There's lots
of
other things. So just if you just search "Learn About Weather" on YouTube, you will find it. So subscribe to that as well. You get an update every week, all about different things, from making a cloud in a bottle to sudden stratospheric warming.
Finally, questions
in. We've had lots of questions in from children. We put a request out on Twitter and on Instagram. Mike Hustler, how do you think? But anyway, Mike H has sent this question in. I'm assuming it's from his child or a child he knows. If hot air rises, why isn't rain hot? Which is a great question. It's a great question.
Stumped me.
Well, the simple answer is because to get the rain, it has to cool down. So you've got hot air and it rises and it rises, but as it's rising, the crucial thing is it's cooling down, because as you go up through the atmosphere, it's getting colder because the Earth is heating the lower part of the atmosphere. The atmosphere's cooling as you go up, and as that air parcel rises, it's cooling, and it's that cooling which allows it to condense, cool down, and that's what forms rain droplets. Otherwise, it would just keep on rising if the temperature, it wouldn't cool, it wouldn't condense, it wouldn't form the rain. And then it forms the rain in its cooled state, so it's not warm anymore. The rain falls out the sky, but the rain doesn't have time to warm up because the rain falls faster than the air parcel rose. The rain doesn't have time, so the rain is still pretty chilly. In fact, most rain that we see across the UK starts off as snow because it cools below the freezing level. Snow forms, and it's actually snow that falls out the cloud that melts on its way down slowly. So that's why the rain at the surface isn't warm. Good question, Mike.
Thank you. It was hot. Imagine that.
Well, it's reasonably warm in the tropics. You get warmer rain.
Quite nice when it rains.
Yeah, and you get big droplets as well, don't you?
Here's good. Why does the wind last all day? From Sophia, age 7.
Age 7. That is a great question, Sophia. And well, the wind. I mean, the wind basically dictates our weather, as we saw earlier. With the direction is so crucial. What causes wind? That's basically pressure. The difference in pressure, and that's generally created by the sun. Actually, why do we get any kind of differences across the globe? It's because the sun heats the Earth, but it heats it at different rates. Heats the equator more, so the equator is warmer, and it creates patterns, pressure pattern disturbances, and it's the pressure differences. Mother Nature then tries to balance that out, moving things from high pressure to low pressure. But that doesn't just go from high pressure to low pressure because of the Coriolis effect. It goes along the isobars and along the equal lines of pressure, and so that's what creates wind. Wind shifts all around all day. If you mean why on a windy day does it stay windy all day? Well, it doesn't always. But you do often get spells of wind that last, several hours. But the wind's always changing, always gusting stronger, always switching direction. It's one of the most variable things in the weather. But it's actually one of the easiest things to forecast, because the pressure pattern is one of the easiest things for the computers to model. So actually, wind speed and direction is one of the easiest things to forecast. A lot easier to say than snow, for example. But yes. The wind is always changing, and it's always mixing around a little bit, but that is a very good question, Sophia.
I hope that made sense, Sophia, age 7.
Very good question.
Great stuff. And not so much question, but fan mail. We don't get much of this. So we like to show off. My 5-year-old is your biggest fan. He loves the weather.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Keep watching, and yeah, thank you. And maybe next year, next time I send them, when the question does come to you, you can still send it in.
Joshua Singleton has said, will we get another big heat wave this summer?
That's a good question.
By the way, I want to be a meteorologist when I'm older. It's too early to tell, Joshua. Last year, of course, we had the joint hottest summer on record, and there are scientists in this building who believe that with global warming, those kinds of summers are going to be more likely in the future, but that doesn't guarantee one for this summer. The UK weather is, of course, highly variable, but we'll be keeping you updated as and when we find out more.
He wants to be a meteorologist. Again, keep up with your sciences, keep up with your maths, keep up with your sciences. That is my top tip, Joshua. Thank you very much for your question. And this is a good question we had sent in last year, wasn't it, from Ella Whiteley, year 10.
Why does it rain a lot in the UK? Now, I don't know where Ella lives. Maybe she lives on one of these blue bits in the west where it really does rain a lot. But if you live in the southeast, it might feel like it rains a lot. It certainly rains quite frequently, but there's a huge contrast across the country in terms of where we get the most rainfall. About 3 times as much rainfall over sort of the hills of Scotland, northwest England and Wales. Now, the simple answer to why it rains a lot in the UK is this. Around the UK, we're surrounded by water, and the biggest area of water is over here, the Atlantic Ocean, this enormous ocean which creates rain clouds, and those rain clouds are lifted into the sky and they're sent our way because the winds in this country typically come from the west. And so why does it rain a lot in the UK? Because our weather comes from the Atlantic, where there's an awful lot of water. Why does it rain so much over these western hills? Well, that's because those are the first places where those rain clouds come in, and they hit those mountains in the west, and they cause a lot of rainfall there. And where we've got some shelter from those mountains in the west, we get a much less rainfall, but it still rains quite frequently.
Great question, man.
Yeah,
very
fantastic.
good, very good question. More questions coming. Oh, we've got this question as well. Any snow? Dylan, age 7. That's a good question. A lot of people want to know that. I've been asking it through the winter. We had a little bit a couple of weeks ago. And, well, take us through the next few days. Any forecast coming, Aidan, our way?
Yes, let's take a look at the outlook. A few people have asked about the snowfall. Jason Tasker on Facebook, why is snow hard to predict?
Well, there's many reasons for that, actually, and we might be making a video for that to go on our sister channel about why snow is so tricky to forecast, and because a small change in temperature makes a very big difference. Just a couple of degrees can be the difference between rain and snow, but it can be +2 and snowing, and equally it can be 0 and raining. So, yeah, snow is a fickle mistress. Everyone wants to know about it, but it is very hard. A subtle shift in wind direction can make a very big difference. If you've got the wind off the sea, then it's a bit warmer, whereas the wind off the lands, it's a little bit colder, and it's those subtle differences that can make all the difference. Snow is always on a knife edge. It was actually a bit easier last year to forecast snow because we had the beast from the east, and the air was so cold that pretty much everything falling out of it was going to be snow. This winter, we haven't really had any significant easterlies. The winds have been a bit all over the place. But when the wind's bringing the moisture in from the west, but they're also bringing milder air. So you've got that balance. Is it cold enough for it to snow, or will the warmer air just warm it enough to turn it to rain? So it's always on the cusp, particularly across the UK. So yeah, but we might be making a video about that to go on our sister channel later this week or in the next couple of weeks.
It's about as easy this next week to predict snow as it was this time last year, because anything falling out of the sky
is not going to be
will not be snow. And in fact,
in the high teens.
The such mild air coming up from the south, there'll be barely any snow left on the tops of the mountains across the UK by the end of the weekend. Not great news if you are a lover of winter weather.
Matthew Hall on YouTube, can I wear my Speedos to work on Friday? Well, Matthew,
is that a meteorological question, or is he asking for our permission?
It's entirely up to you, Matthew. We have a dress down Friday around here, but I've never seen anyone in Speedos. I think that might be a little bit excessive.
Maybe you could learn a thing or two.
It's entirely up to you, Matthew. Thanks for your question.
I don't know if he's the same gentleman who asked about Speedos last week.
Maybe he's got a sponsorship deal. Mark Nankervis on YouTube asked what temperatures in the sea in the English Channel at the moment, and we were talking about that earlier. That is why on the south coast we've got southerly winds, but actually on the south coast it could be quite misty and quite murky, with temperatures only probably in single figures, 8-9 degrees, something like that. So it is going to be pretty chilly on that south coast with the winds coming in. That's why the land and the mountains will be making a big difference.
Finally, from YouTube, hi, I'm RJ and I'm 10. What degrees is it going to be in the summer? Now, we were talking about temperatures around 17, 18 degrees this Saturday. Those temperatures wouldn't be out of place in the summer. It would be a relatively cool day in the summer, but you could find those temperatures in the summer. But equally, the average temperature during the summer months is, in the south of the UK, it's sort of like low 20s up to about 24 degrees or so. But the record temperatures are something like 37.5, I think.
To high 30s
so that's the all-time UK maximum.
So the temperatures vary quite a lot, as they do in February. And we've had, last year +1, barely getting that some places. This year 18. So that kind of range in just 1 month. So you get those kind of ranges throughout the summer months as well. And as Aidan says, it's just too early to say about this summer and how warm it will be. But stay tuned. We will be keeping you updated.
Yeah, and briefly, the outlook for the next week or so. We mentioned high pressure directing all this warmth our way. There's the jet stream to the north of the UK as we end Saturday. Now, there's the cold front that we indicated, so Sunday perhaps won't be quite as mild, but still temperatures well above average for the time of year. We keep the jet stream to the north of the UK, and then watch the high pressure. Now, it starts by Sunday, this is Sunday morning, it starts to move across the UK. So subtle change in position. We've still got unusually mild air across the UK, but with the high pressure sitting across the UK, there'll be lighter winds, so that will make it feel perhaps a bit more pleasant. But because the winds won't be quite as strong, directing all that warmth our way, it won't be quite as mild. I expect the temperatures will peak on Saturday. And then it's all about next week where that high pressure ends up, because it looks highly likely that it will stick around. Now, this is one computer simulation which shows the high pressure just drifting. So on Sunday it's over the UK and then just drifting towards Iceland. And that would allow these blues to start to impact northern parts of Britain. This is one computer simulation. So temperatures dropping away, certainly not anywhere near as mild for most of us, but for the south, temperatures above average still through next week. For the north, a little bit colder there. Nothing extreme, however. But that's less likely. The more likely scenario for next week is for high pressure to be a bit closer to the UK and for us to continue to draw up relatively mild air. Again, not as mild as Saturday, but that sort of thing.
That's the more likely scenario, is it?
I was going to say scene, but I don't think I'm cool enough to use words like scene.
Yeah, so as we saw earlier, the east or the west, or the southerly, it makes a big difference. So the position of the high dictates the direction of the wind, and as we saw earlier, the direction of the wind can make a massive, massive difference. What is this?
This is the forecast. Looking into next week, the end of February there, that's Thursday, the last day of February, March the 1st and beyond. So this is the forecast. And these are the computer simulations. It's an average of all that we run the computer model many, many times, 30 times or so, every 12 hours. So this is the most recent computer run, and it takes all of those computer simulations, and when it's a strong red colour there, it says that virtually all of them are suggesting high pressure. So you can see that red colour all the way out to the end of February and the beginning of March. So strong signal for high pressure. These are the previous computer runs going back the last few days or so. And so we've always had this signal for high pressure through next week. It's just a really solid indication there that that red is going to keep going all the way through to the end of February into the beginning of March. So
it's blue at the start because we've got low pressure near us at the moment bringing that rain around, but then it changes and the high pressure builds. So what does that mean? It means that the dry weather is most likely to persist through next week for the rest of February. but the position of the high, as you indicated there, and the wind direction makes such a big difference to the temperature. So we're not guaranteeing it's going to be very mild for the rest of February, far from it. There's a balance, but the main themes are that the dry weather does look like persisting for the rest of the month.
Subtle difference between two not very exciting outcomes. One of them is that everywhere will be above average. One of them is that it will be a little colder in the north, and that's about it. But yeah, dry, settled, high pressure.
We'll have more on that in the 10-day trend tomorrow. The 10-day trend's our longer-term video. If you haven't seen that, it goes on YouTube and on Facebook on a Wednesday afternoon. We'll have more on that. Lots of really good questions coming in. Thank you so much for these. Phil Hume on Facebook, can you explain the Kalima, which happens in the Canary Islands a lot? And that's when you get Saharan dust blowing across the Canary Islands. And the Canary Islands normally get the trade winds from the southwest, but occasionally they get winds from the east, which brings unusual conditions. It also raises the temperature quite a lot, but it also brings Saharan dust to them, and they may get that this week, and also actually across mainland Spain they are expecting things to get some Saharan dust over the next couple of days. And of course, with the winds coming up from the south, it is a possibility that we could get some of that Saharan dust across the UK as we go later this week and towards the weekend. That changes the colour of the sky, so it makes it a little redder as well, and then if you get some rain you can see dust deposited on your cars as well. So interesting. That's definitely one to watch. So that's what the Kalima is. Yes, the Spanish have a certain word for it because it's a reasonably regular feature there.
Ryan plays on YouTube, are we going to get an early summer? A lot of questions now coming in about whether we're getting an early summer. You know, we've got a few months to go yet. I suspect there's still something left to go in this winter. You know, in March we often get quite cold weather, don't we?
Well, yeah, we had the second beast from the east in the middle of March last year, where temperatures were below freezing again, widespread snow. So yes, let's not start talking about spring is definitely here and it's an early summer. It's just too early to say. I said we'll have more on the outlook in the 10-day trend tomorrow. Why does the UK not get tornadoes? Baby Flo, YouTube. Well, we do get tornadoes, Baby Flo. We do actually get quite a lot of them. Yeah, they tend not to be the same size and scale as in the US. Those absolute monsters that can be devastating. But in the UK, we do get quite a few, actually. And some other... I saw a really good question earlier. Oh, Matty B on Facebook, what effects will El Nino have on our weather? We haven't got time to go into that at the moment, but El Nino has been in the news. But there is another really good video on Learn About Weather about El Nino. It's our most popular video, is it? It's one with most views, over 1 million views. So if you want to know a bit more about El Nino, again, our sister channel, Learn About Weather, has more on
It's that. The time of year that El Nino has less of an impact on the UK weather. It's the second half of the winter that we are more likely to get cold spells if we have an El Nino, but now we're looking ahead to spring. So whatever happens with El Nino, I don't think it will impact. They're weak impacts anyway, whatever time of year you look at.
But yes, that's on YouTube, our sister channel, Learn About Weather. But we are right across the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat and Twitter. Please stay up to date with the forecast. We'll be the very source of information. If we do get any of those records later this week, we will be the first to let you know, and we'll have more on it next week as well. Join us then if you can, but thanks for watching.
See you later.